My poor, poor, poor bowl season. Where have you gone? What has become of bowl season? Welcome in, everyone, to the Voice of College Football. It's December 30th. We are just a couple short days away from 2024 and a 12-team college football playoff. How that will change the existence of all of us as college football fans, I think we have an idea, but we will truly experience it 1 year from now. But for right now, it's bowl season. It is bowl season, and we've got some good games. We've got some lousy games. We've got some in between. Let's run it down. We've left the link in the comment section. So please give me a call. Let's talk some college football with 4 games on tap today and some other things I would like to get to in regards to where we stand in college football. We do truly appreciate everyone being here. As it states on the screen, we've got an SEC channel and we've got a Big 12 channel. We launched both of those channels back at the beginning of the season and would love for you to check them out. So please go to the description section and you've got the SEC channel link there and also the Big 12 channel link. And yes, we are transitioning and have already done so, Oklahoma and Texas, to the SEC channel. So there you go. All right. In Miami, I tuned away from this game. Oh, it seems like it was about 8 hours ago. Georgia, 6,003,203. Might as well be, right? This is quite embarrassing for Florida State, regardless of how you slice it. Can it be explained to a certain extent? Of course. They barely have their football team there. And we will get to how we can, in some reasonable way, evaluate these bowl games in this manner. Georgia 63, Florida State 3. I can really not comment on anything concerning this game, except that at the very, very, very last second, I let something influence me just enough to the point where I've never done this before that I can recall, where I actually went on Patreon and I went on the post that we do our predictions here on the YouTube channel. So please become a YouTube member and a Patreon member. I promise that I will not be this stupid in the future. And we are coming into today 18-11 against the spread, even despite all these opt-outs and all these crazy situations in bowl play that make it so difficult to predict these games. Still, 18-11 against the spread. And let's also consider that I always get off to a rough start with a various group of 5 teams playing that I don't follow on a daily basis, that I know little about, that I am not apt to research. So that 18-11 against the spread started out something like 4-6 against the spread. So we've been on a pretty good roll at whatever that is. 14-5 against the spread once the Power 5 started to play. 14-5 against the spread. Are you kidding me? In bowl play? But I made one grave mistake today. I made the mistake of actually watching College Game Day or whatever it is. I don't think it was an official College Game Day. I think it was just the College Game Day guys sitting at the set before the game. That's what it was. I was out of breakfast. And I came home and I had the last time I had the TV on was the Cotton Bowl. And so it was on ESPN. So when I flipped it on, College Game Day was on. So maybe it was College Game Day. If they had a College Game Day on before the Peach Bowl. I'm even losing track of which bowl games are which, because to me, they are no longer really, they don't just have that identity that they used to as bowl games, because some of them rotate into the playoff. Well, the New Year's Six games rotate into the playoff. So in the years that they are playoff games, I don't really consider them bowl games. They're playoff games. So I have lost track. It has been difficult for me to remember. Oh, yeah. Missouri, Ohio State. That's the Cotton Bowl. I have been tempted so many times to call the Florida State Georgia game the Sugar Bowl because it sounds like a Sugar Bowl game with an SEC team. And for some reason, I keep thinking that's the Sugar Bowl, but no, it's the Orange Bowl. And the like. Penn State and Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl. Okay, it's a bowl game. So I flipped on College Game Day, and just some of the rhetoric there. I watched it for a little bit. I took in like 5 or 10 minutes, so that is going to completely go up against my reputation of not watching College Game Day, and that's nothing against College Game Day. It is simply that I have better things to do with my life, and it no longer entertains me or informs me. I watch and consume. I consume social media because of business. I consume online content and television and all of that for one of two reasons: entertainment, information. And so if I'm not going to be informed, then I need to be entertained. If I'm not going to be entertained, I better be informed. And I generally get neither there. So I already had it down that Georgia was going to cover the 21 points. Already fine, secure with it. It's good. Got it. Georgia's going to blast them. I was envisioning maybe not 63-3, but I was envisioning 42-10, 49-10. Oh, and I thought, 21 points. That's a lot of points. And Florida State should be able to score late. And flip my pick against the spread. So kicking myself for that. But become a YouTube channel member. You get my picks. Or also on Patreon. You get my picks. You can also, by being a Patreon member or a member here on the YouTube channel, you can also take part in the College Football After Dark panel. That is open to everyone. I believe we've got about 85 to 90 people on Patreon. I don't know what the count is on the YouTube membership here, but we've got probably 110 or 20 people that could take part in the College Football After Dark. So do not be intimidated or believe that that's not for you. You can take part and be a regular panel member on the College Football After Dark show each and every Sunday night, which is actually coming your way tonight later, 10:15 Eastern time, I believe, which also leads me to another programming note. We're taking your calls right here. This is kind of our Orange Bowl, Barstool Sports, Arizona Bowl. Who else is playing? Whatever there was. I can't keep track of these bowl games. Music City Bowl, that's what the other one was. And the Peach Bowl post game. That's what we're doing right here. So it's our bowl game, post game, and we will talk about whatever you want to talk about. Also, we are going to wrap up here a few minutes prior to 8:30, but stay right here because we're going to turn it around, and we've got a couple of gentlemen on the line from Texas and from Washington. Lars Hansen of Locked On Huskies, and also Matthew Miller, our post-game host here at the Voice of College Football Texas, to break down Texas and Washington. So we're going to do a live show at 8:30 Eastern right here with a different link. And let's take a call. Let's get after it. Will's on the line. Will, what's going on tonight?
What's up, Mark? Sad I couldn't hop on. I couldn't make it last night, but when I saw you doing another show, I had to hop on.
Of course. What's going on?
Well, I don't know. I got a lot. I know the game was a blowout and people probably didn't want to watch it, but there's a lot of positive takeaways I have from the bowl game, the Sun Bowl.
I'm all ears. I don't have any positive takes from it because I had it on a second screen, and I got to say, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, except I assume the quarterback Angeli played well. Mm-hmm. And at one point in the game, I heard the announcers say that Notre Dame's top 4 pass receivers were not playing.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that Audric Estime did not play. Sam Hartman didn't play. He looked mighty stylish, fashionable on the sideline. I think he was sporting some nice shades. He's got the nice the flow going. He's looking good for the NFL.
Yeah.
So that's what I took away from it. And that there were bright blue skies there in El Paso, because there are some certain people that I know that disparage the Sun Bowl, but I love the Sun Bowl. It's a tradition. It's a CBS Bowl tradition. Absolutely. We had Brad Nessler there and Gary Danielson, but I did not expect it to be much of a game, and it certainly was not. But you enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course. The one biggest takeaway I have is that Jalen Sneed, they're finally using Jalen Sneed the way I hope they would use him, or the light just flashed in his head. Maybe they're trying to do it. Because he was the top recruit for the Irish in 2022. And he didn't really play much besides special teams. And then I was hoping he would have a bit of a bigger role during the season. And he played, but he didn't do that much. But that's just a guy on defense. You can play on linebacker, you can play in space, you can play in the edge, and he could just go right after, go for the ball, and get tackles in the run game and pressure the quarterback. And he was doing that. So I think he'll be huge in 24 if he plays like he did in the Sun Bowl, or at least close to it.
So also, Will, tell me about the wide receiver face-on. So I saw him make some plays.
So he was really just supposed to. It's a crazy story. Like, he was really just supposed to be a practice player. Like, he was signed on scholarship for the lacrosse team, and I mean, the lacrosse team's elite, so he's definitely has to be a good athlete. But he's like, during camp, they're like, oh my gosh, this guy could actually like be a weapon. He's very fast. He can be like a flanker, run deep, and was getting open on the Oregon State DBs, and I feel like he'll probably start as the flanker, like the run deep wide receiver in 2024 as well. I mean, it's been a great story.
Will, I appreciate that Notre Dame has an exceptional lacrosse team, an elite program, but I've been hearing way too much about the Notre Dame lacrosse team, more than I would ever want to know.
I mean, he could be an NFL receiver. I mean, we just didn't. No one thought he would before the spring camp started.
I heard about it yesterday, and I heard about it a couple weeks ago with Tyler Buckner.
Yeah. But, I mean, we got the transfer. Jaden Grayhouse, still a great recruit. He made a couple plays. Jaden Thomas was hurt all year, so he was supposed to be one of the top 4 receivers. He's really good at just getting those short routes and, like, getting those, like, 5-6 yard catches. He did well in the receiver room, too. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Jabron Payne, Devin Ford, they all, of course, made plays on the running backs, and Jeremiah is probably going to be the lead back. He's got to get some more muscle in. But if he gets that muscle in and can break that, like that 1 or 2 extra tackles, he can break it deep. So I'm excited about him. And I'm excited. And Cam Hart opted out, cornerback. Christian Gray, a highly touted freshman, looked just as good as Cam. And he's going to be starting alongside Ben Morrison, of course. You probably know about him. So those are going to be the 2 starting corners. And they both looked like they're going to be great again next year. And then Charles Jagasaw replaced Joe Alt, highly touted, big, huge guy. He looks like an NFL offensive lineman, but he's only a freshman in college. The guy's just huge. He looked great. Right tackle Tosh Baker replaced Blake Fisher, who I do not think is NFL ready right now, but he got bad advice. Said he's going to the draft. That's the one. I don't know. That was what I was like, Mark.
That's why they get these NFL scouting reports back.
Yeah, but Tosh didn't do that well. I mean, he wasn't horrible, but that's my one kind of concern, right tackle. But I mean, this is with everyone. It feels like everyone's coming back. Like Xavier Watts is coming back now too. I feel like Notre Dame should have a strong chance at a playoff spot in 24. And if there's no playoffs, I'm going to be very disappointed.
This is a great rundown of Notre Dame for 2024 for us to be able to clip this off and put it over on our fledgling Notre Dame channel that's doesn't have much content over there. To take your analysis and put it on over there. So what would be your biggest concerns or biggest needs that need to be addressed during the off season?
Just getting these we got a lot of transfer portal guys, so just mesh these guys together with the players that we have now. And I mean, I feel like there's not many I could always say there's weaknesses on the Irish team, like wide receivers haven't been great, but we got a bunch of transfer portal receivers. We got a new wide receiver coach, Mike Brown. We haven't had a good wide receivers coach in I don't know who the coaches were back in the Charlie Weiss days, but they did a good job with Golden Tate and Michael Floyd. But during Kelly and Freeman era so far, it hasn't been good. So that excites me a lot. And also just the new linebackers. I mean, J.D. Bertrand played, and he's not coming back. So we're going to have to get, whether it's Drake Bowen, Jaden Osbury, KVA as a freshman, probably won't start, but we're going to need another. I mean, Drake made some mistakes, but he's such a highly recruit that Al Goldman and the GAs, Max Bullock, who played for Michigan State, he's a GA. Those guys just got to coach one of those guys up, wherever it's Drake Bowen or Jaden Osbury will probably be one of the two to start in College Station. So, yeah, like right tackle and one of the three linebackers spots is probably my biggest concern. But I'm very optimistic about the year. I mean, people were saying, like, this is the best team on paper since the 2006 season. So hopefully they pull through and make the playoffs.
Yes. So I don't know if you personally know, I don't even know exactly who this is. I don't know if this is Michael Campbell or who this is, but I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I get regularly inundated with this individual on Twitter, and he was going to town today. And let's see if you've got a response for any of this.
Gosh.
So let's see what we got here. Is we've got
okay,
largest bowl victory in Notre Dame history. That's great. Nothing wrong with that, certainly. And then we've got that they had to remind, I don't know what this has to do with Notre Dame, that Ohio State lost to Missouri. Okay, fine. And that Brutus is sad. And so then I finally responded to that because this was directed at me. And I just basically said, yeah, nothing to be down about. Loaded roster, top 4 recruiting class, great football program that wins 11 games every year. And then then the garbage starts to be spewed out. Whatever this means, I have no idea. What success rate? I have no idea what this even means.
There's a little I don't know what Michael. I don't know. Like I've been with a couple of Twitter spaces with Michael. He makes my head hurt with some of the stuff he says.
Yeah, so I don't know what this means. Success
I think
rate.
maybe he was looking at some sort of analytic website.
Okay. All right. So success rate to me is win percentage. So anyway, whatever all that nonsense means. And then what big games did you win? And I in no way want to turn this into an Ohio State Notre Dame conversation, but this individual, and there's about 3 others that like to do this with me, that the Notre Dame game was pure luck, and that Marcus Freeman has 2 top 10 ranked wins already in 2 years. What games are those?
Well, the USC was in the top 10. Clemson was in the top 10.
Okay. They're 7-5 and 8-4. Oh, gotcha. Oh, last year's Clemson win. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, this is certainly an easy comeback. And I just recite the 2 scores from the last 2 years and the 2 teams' records over the last 2 years. And then I get all of this business about Ohio State's overrated. They've got popularity like the Dallas Cowboys and recruiting rankings and all this. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Well, and I know that this is not you. I just, since you came on here with, of course, some Notre Dame discussion, I just find this nauseating. All right. Well, any other thing from Notre Dame or anyone else?
I mean, I was gonna talk about the Ohio State game for a sec.
Oh,
Just
okay.
like I'm not trying to say that like Notre Dame has better quarterbacks than Ohio State, but I felt like I don't know. I would like to think that like Keenan Holtz like would be a little more. I mean, I know he was the third string in the backup. I would like to think he'd be a little more prepared than he was. But I understand like he's a freshman and all that, but I don't know. Just like I would think that Ryan Day and whoever the quarterbacks coach is would work with him a little bit to look better than that. But I understand. I mean, I wasn't here to. I didn't know we were going to be talking about the Michael stuff before, but
Well, I'll put it this way.
yeah.
Missouri won the game. They were the better team. Ohio State had just one.
I mean, I know Ohio State would win the game if Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison were playing. I'm not saying.
You think I would think so, but there's no way to prove that. And these teams have to play with who's on the field. Look at this Ole Miss Penn State game today. I don't know what would have happened if the two teams would have been fully stocked. Penn State's missing 4 defensive players who are going to be extremely high picks in the NFL draft, but they lost the game. And we have gotten to a place where we just have to take the wins and losses, I believe, for what they are. And certainly it's worth the discussion about which teams. Of course, Florida State, they're
I felt like they
gutted
didn't
tonight.
really care about the game even before it started.
Yeah, so but you still have to credit the team that won the game. They won it fair and square, and the opt-outs are here to stay, and that's what it is. So Missouri won the Cotton Bowl, and Ohio State lost the Cotton Bowl. And the issue I guess I have, and this was my theme to a certain extent last night, was people keep telling, at least here, most fans, that these bowl games are meaningless.
It frustrates me that people say that.
Well, I just want people to cut it one way or the other. They can't say these games are meaningless, and then when somebody in particular that they don't like, and we'll use Ohio State as an example here, then they lose that game, and then suddenly it's a big game. Ohio State keeps losing big games, and they make fun of them losing this game. Well, they were just saying a week ago that it was meaningless. So is it either meaningless or it's a big game? Which is it? Just pick your spot.
I always think of them as big games, but not other people. Not other people are more flippy floppy on it.
Yeah, I want them to be big games. They used to be big games.
We got it.
Mark, the players are treating them like big games.
What would help it is if the transfer portal didn't open until after the national championship game. Then I think the games would be a little better. I mean, they still wouldn't be what they were before draft opt-outs, but that would definitely make bowl games a lot better, I think.
Yeah, so I can't think of anything that would prohibit that or would be a good argument to push back on, except that there are 40 teams in the country, 50 teams in the country that aren't playing in bowl games. So those players have to sit for 6 weeks before they can enter the transfer portal.
I mean, well, tough crap, but I mean, I think that's your team should have been played better.
I think it would make it easier on the coaches too, because they're trying to prepare for a bowl game and they are recruiting and wrapping up a signing class. Plus they have to deal with the transfer portal. So I agree with you. That would be good for the game. I don't know if it's good for the players, but it's good for the game. Now, those players, if we're still considering something that that used to be important a long, long time ago, that maybe, I don't know if this is a bad word or not, but it's called school. But like they would have to enroll in school at the last second, or they may be late.
Fair. That's a good point, Mark. That's a good point.
Although, when do most of these schools go back into class? Like the 20th?
Yeah.
So even if you did it even if you did it in such a way that you assumed, okay, there aren't going to be a ton of opt-outs for teams that make the national championship game. So we're done with all of college football on January 2nd, except the national championship game. Transfer portal, January 2nd.
Yeah, that there we go.
And they've got 18 days roughly to find a school, get to class. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. We gotta submit this proposal to the NCAA. We gotta
do that.
Happen.
Yeah.
We gotta fix the bowl games.
That would help with the transfer portal. I wonder how much money would have to be paid to these players to get them to play these bowl games.
20,000.
Yeah, so that could be another thought.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People say that Marvin Harrison Jr. wanted to play in the game, but he was advised not to. But he wanted to play the game.
That's definitely possible.
I just don't like that we don't hear about many of these opt-outs until right before the game. Now, I hope the coach and the coaching staff know what's going on.
I bet they do.
I heard hope so. And I hope it's just done to keep the opponent off guard. So. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that like Marcus Freeman knew weeks ahead of time of the opt-outs before they opted out. And then there are people on Twitter were leaking it before the players did. That was a whole mess. Mm-hmm.
All right. Good stuff, Will. Anything else?
Nope. Thanks, Mark. Just hope you enjoy your New Year's if I don't see you before then.
I appreciate it, Will. Happy New Year's to you as well. We'll see you soon.
Mark. See you.
It's our guy, Will. Smart, knowledgeable, reasonable Notre Dame fan. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. And we know that this guy has got to be amped and hyped and ready for the college football playoff Rose Bowl game on New Year's Day. Ballard, how you doing?
Happy New Year, Mark. How are you, man? I miss talking to you all the time.
Yeah, it's good to see you here.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I'm hyped up. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go for the Rose Bowl. And I don't know. I'm not even going to try to pretend to know too much about Texas and Washington. If you want to get into that, we can. But I wanted to actually talk tonight about what do you think the strengths and weaknesses of the Rose Bowl are for the teams? Because I came up with, I think the biggest weakness for Alabama is going to be offensive line consistency. And I think the biggest strength for Michigan, honestly, is going to be the wide receiver play because I think their offensive line will help out a lot with that. But you got to think they got the wide receivers to go and make big plays downfield. What position group or what strengths and weaknesses would you run down for these teams?
All right, if we're just staying with the players on the field and not talking about psychology and coaching on all of that, just talking about the matchups on the field. Okay.
Yep.
Jalen Milroe is completely different than anyone Michigan has faced this year, last year, the year before. I don't know how far we would have to go back. Justin Fields. We'd have to go back to Justin Fields. Yeah. The last time Michigan faced a quarterback with this type of skill set. So, of course, Michigan has a backup quarterback in Alex Orji, who I'm guessing is probably playing that role in practice. So they are getting some live reps looking at that. But I just think Jalen Milroe is a problem. And I don't watch as much Alabama football as you do, but I watch all the big games. And when I say big games, I mean almost every SEC game. And he became a better intermediate passer as the season wore on. Of course, early on, he just showed off his arm, and he was a great, great deep thrower. Caleb Williams, Michael Penix. I'll put him right there in that tier of great deep ball throwers in college football. He throws a beautiful deep ball, and it is so accurate. I would say that their receiver play is better than it's been the last couple of years, but it's certainly not close to what it was when it was at its best with that Ruggs, Judy, Waddle group. Williams, those guys, but it's good. Isaiah Bonds emerged. The offensive line, and you could probably help me with this a little bit, that Caden Proctor certainly had all sorts of issues early in the season that he was roasted for, but he has played much better as of late. And those cornerbacks, Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold.
Downs. Oh, Terrion, yeah.
Yeah, I actually believe that unless somebody can possibly give me another cornerback tandem, it might be at Penn State, that might be the other one. I believe we've got the two best cornerback tandems in college football playing in this game.
I could see that. I think the defense is for sure. And when you look at Rose Bowl history too, I mean, outside of maybe that double overtime Oklahoma-Georgia game, correct me if I'm wrong, but it has been a defensive game because of history and college football and everything. And believe it or not, I know people want to talk about how, number one, Michigan's offense has been dominant all year long. But then number two, think about the improvement that Alabama's had to make on their offense, even though it struggled and it's kind of sucked at times, but it's improved and it's probably peaking at the right time. I would say this is a defensive game. I look at guys that Alabama could put on the field that can make some noise. Don't be, shocked if you hear names like Kendrick Blackshire and Chris Braswell, Tim Smith, Jaheim Otis. I could go down the list there. And then Michigan even has some guys, Junior Colson and Michael Barrett. So I really think the big storyline could be defenses in this Rose Bowl, even though given we know what Michigan's done offensively and we know where Alabama has improved in that field.
I would expect that this game's going to be somewhere in the low to mid 20s. So if we consider that a defensive game in this day and age, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't expect much of a shootout or anything. Anything could happen in the playoffs. I think we've seen that in years. I know the spread when I did my preview video. Now, I had a really close game. I'll go you said the mid to low 20s or something like that. I went a little bit higher, but the more I look into it after doing my preview video, my score prediction might change a little because originally, if I'm being honest with what I predicted, I predicted a 1-point game, and I'm going to give you the score. 31-30 Alabama. Could you see it possibly getting that high?
Oh, sure. Sure it could.
Okay.
Ohio State and Michigan are defensive teams, and they played a 30-24 game that if Ohio State would have completed that last drive would have been 31-30, and they played in the cold. So, sure, I could see 31-30.
Yeah, and then I expect for this other playoff game, if you want to get into Texas and Washington, I don't really see any defense. I mean, Washington's been pretty good. Texas has been okay at times, but I just see too much firepower and offensive weapons in that game to where I think it could be a shootout.
Oh, I would expect this is going to be a shootout. High 30s, low 40s or more.
I had predicted high 40s. I think I said like 48, 45.
Yeah, I could see that.
Pretty close to it. Yeah.
And who do you like to win?
I look at who do I like to win? I'd love a Texas rematch with Alabama if I had a dream scenario, but going with my gut, I got Alabama getting Michigan. I'm going to go Washington over Texas. I'm going to take the Huskies. And I want to say take the underdog, which I guess I am because I'm looking at ESPN's spread here. It favors Texas by 4, gives them about a 68% chance to win. So you're pretty much looking at an upset, even though Washington is ranked number 2 in this game.
Yeah, I haven't made my official predictions for either game. Now, Steve Dace on Michigan podcast a few weeks ago when we did our preview pushed me for a pick, and I just spit out Alabama 27-23, but that is not
Yeah.
my official prediction. We'll get that out here in the next day. We'll do that soon.
Yeah.
I might, I'll just, I'll leave it at that.
Let me ask you this. We talked a little bit about offenses and defenses. How do you think in both the Rose and the Sugar, not like how it plays out, but do you think it plays a big factor for special teams in this games?
I don't
Field
think so.
goals, kickoff returns,
Well, we've got
nothing?
2 field goal kickers who are highly reliable, and I don't know that either team has had issues with special teams. And let's also remember that the role of special teams has been completely minimized by the rules changes and the rugby style
Mhm.
punting. If you would
Yeah.
take, Ballard, the number of punt returns in college football today versus 10 years ago, it's not even close. Or kickoff returns, not even close to as many. So you've basically eliminated half or 2/3 or whatever the number is, the number of punt returns and kickoff returns. So neither one of those
Yeah.
is nearly as impactful to the game. I'm not saying it's not important. It could pop up. Of course, we saw with Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, Samaje Ryan had an 87-yard punt return against a really good special teams unit with Iowa. So that's always a possibility. But I think these teams are both pretty airtight in special teams.
Yeah. I think when it comes to like scoring on special teams, I mean, I like to call it style points. I know some people use that term, but I mean, if you're gonna score in this Rose Bowl, you're gonna try to get like a pick six or a fumble for a touchdown, or you're just gonna run it down a team's throat and probably just run up the field on offense or throw the deep ball. You're just gonna score normally in this game. I don't think it's gonna be weird. I just think it's gonna be competitive and close.
The better the teams are, the less odd the scoring is, typically, not all the time, but typically because they protect the ball better, they make smarter plays, so you have less odd plays. It's not like turning on a Sunbelt game or a Maction game on Tuesday night where you tend to get more crazy plays.
Yeah. I would fully agree with you there, and, I guess, what other New Year's Day games do we have? Because I know we got the semis. Any other games intrigue you?
Well, we've got Iowa and Tennessee are playing. We've got who else do
I'm
we have?
looking. Oregon Liberty could be
Oh,
good in the Fiesta Bowl.
yeah, I've got no interest in that
Wisconsin
game.
I don't know about Wisconsin LSU. I think LSU, well, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really looked into that game too much. I did bowl pick'ems. I th I think I went with LSU, so I'm kinda pulling for them to get the pick right, but, you know.
So out of those games, anytime the Big Ten and the SEC get together, I'm intrigued. However, with all the opt-outs being what they are, the results are less reliable and less meaningful to me, unfortunately. Out of all those games, I would want to watch Tennessee and Iowa play over anybody else by far. I would want to
I
watch
think
that
that's
game.
low. I heard a Tennessee fan that I follow on YouTube. I heard rumors the other day, is J Nico, the freshman, I
Yes, he's starting.
he is gonna start.
Joe Milton
That's
has
what's gonna
opted
make
out.
Tennessee. Yeah. I knew Joe opted out. I was just trying to make sure it was Nico that I heard correctly, but that'll make it interesting because remember, he's a five-star recruit that Tennessee picked up. He's new to the team. He hasn't gotten too much playing time on his hands, but for his first start to be a bowl game against a pretty good Iowa defense, that does intrigue me.
Sure. I would sign up for that game, watching that game. Just the name brands of LSU and Wisconsin interest me, but I don't know that it's going to be a great game. I think LSU's got way too much for Wisconsin. I might be wrong. I'd have to look through those opt-outs as well. I don't know what's there besides Jaden Daniels, of course, is not playing in that game, although Garrett Nussmeier is a capable backup. He's played significant playing time, so I don't anticipate that being a huge issue for LSU, and I'm pretty confident they're going to win that game. Liberty and Oregon, I really don't give Liberty much of a chance in that game. I just don't think that's going to be much of a ball game.
Yeah, no, I view it as one of Oregon's earlier games this season where did they have like a game against a team like Portland State and they scored like 91 points or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. I believe they put up 81. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna be that much, but I wouldn't be
No,
surprised if they could hang like 63 points on on
they
Liberty and
could.
maybe give them 10. I don't know.
I see that
It'll
maybe
be
in the
interesting.
49-17 range, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. It's just been a good bowl season, Mark. I haven't talked to you too much, but I've definitely tuned in a few times. I'll continue to tune in. I love all you guys, and I wish you a happy new year too, man. Roll Tide, and let's go win the Rose Bowl.
Happy New Year, Ballard. Enjoy the game, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Our guy Christian, Ballard Sports Media there. B-Bean, good to see you. Did you notice what, I don't know that a lot of people talked about this today, but did you notice this about the bowl games? When were the bowl games scheduled? When did they kick off? What else is going on today? Did anyone notice this? We had a major New Year's Six game that kicked off at noon. Okay. Not on New Year's Day, on a Saturday. Okay, that's not that uncommon, I don't believe. I would have to check and go back. So generally, what do we have in the New Year's Six games? We have them played at night, unless they're played on New Year's Day or possibly on a Saturday. However, we would normally have what? We would have the lesser bowl games be played earlier in the day. We would have had that Maryland-Auburn Music City bowl game be the noon game. Then we would have a 4:30 start for one of the two New Year's Six games, probably the Ole Miss Penn State game, because Georgia, Florida State, at least based on name recognition and if players had played in the game, and because of those two teams being the first two out of the playoff, that would have been a what? It would have been a primetime game. So, does anyone know why these teams, we have no college football on tonight? Does anyone realize this? Do we know why? Anybody? Anyone? Why do we not have any college football games being played? Yes. Tom is telling us right there. The Orange Bowl played during the day was weird. When has there been an Orange Bowl played during the day? I bet if we looked at the history of the Orange Bowl, if we go to the history of the Orange Bowl, I'm just about going to guarantee that we've not had a day game for the Orange Bowl. Let's see here. Can we find ourselves a decent site? Okay. Look at this. I'm proving a point here. Look at these Orange Bowl scores. course, last year's game was played at night. Tennessee and Clemson. You've got the playoff game from 2021. Texas A&M, North Carolina, Florida, Virginia. I can guarantee all these games. You go through all these games. I'm looking at all of them. I'm remembering watching all of these games. All of these games. I'm already back to 2013. Going back before that, Stanford, Virginia Tech, Iowa, Georgia Tech, on and on and on. All these games, all of them played at night. All of them played at night. Every one of them at night. I can go all the way back to the time that I started watching college football. All of them played at night. Okay, I can only go back to the mid-70s and vouch for those games. All right, that's 50 years. All of them played at night. College football doesn't want to be playing the Orange Bowl in the middle of the day. Bingo! Terry's got it. The NFL. The NFL for a long time has moved New Year's bowl games, even the Rose Bowl, to what? January 2nd. Anytime that New Year's Day, which it's so funny because we consider New Year's Day, this hallowed day, college football, nothing could mess with New Year's Day. Always New Year's Day bowl games, of course, except when once every 7 years, they aren't New Year's Day games. They're played on January 2nd because New Year's Day falls, as it did last year, on Sunday. And if there is Sunday NFL football, then the New Year's Day games go away. They move to January 2nd. I don't know when that started. I do not remember a time when I was growing up that there was a clash between NFL games, which would have been at that point playoff games. The NFL season is completely gone off the rails and out of control. We still have one more week of regular season games to be played on roughly the 7th and 8th. And then the playoffs don't start until the 15th with an added layer of playoffs just in the last 3 years with a 7th team in each conference and a 17th game. Why there has to be a 17th game played in the NFL, we all know the reason why. Money. And why there has to be a 7th team in a 16-team conference, a 9-8 team, make the playoffs. I had a friend tell me today when we were talking about it, said, there is obviously an insatiable appetite for NFL football in this country. And I said, you know what? There is. The NFL can do no wrong. People will watch the NFL and everybody else has to get out of the way. Wow. And so we had the Orange Bowl for the first time in my lifetime played during the day because there's an NFL game on tonight. Wow. Wow. I was about to say what I would do if I was college football commissioner, but I don't exactly know because you can't just be stubborn. You have to be smart. But I would like to see what would happen if there was a legitimate bowl game in which players were not opting out go up against that NFL game. But I know from past experience that would not be pretty for college football. It would not be pretty. And there's actually a very good game on tonight with the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. I got a vote here, at least, from LBC Robbie. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right. We got Dr. C on the line, but that's my note about the NFL today changing and impacting college football. Dr.
Hey, Mark,
C,
how's it going?
Tonight? I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Oh, man. was watching the Georgia-Florida State game, and I think, what have we learned from this year's bowl games? Have we learned anything new as
About the
compared to last
teams or
year?
about where college football is headed?
Yeah, I mean, I am at a loss, because this was a perfect example, Georgia, Florida State, two powerhouses. This is a big bowl, quote unquote. And then you have opt-outs, Florida State. I thought for a second, Florida State was going to try to make a statement and say, hey, we're going to show everyone that the country and the committee that they were wrong by beating Georgia. But instead of doing that, they had opt-outs and whatnot. Did you think Florida State was going to try to do that, or did you see this happening?
I think that players are going to do what's best for them individually.
Mm-hmm. If you were in that spot, if you were a Florida State player, would you have played? Knowing that you were going to risk potentially a draft, if you get injured?
So I would look at it this way and understand that your question is being asked to a 55-year-old and not a 20-year-old that has millions of dollars awaiting him. So this is being answered in theory. So I would say that I would have a discussion with everybody in that locker room that had that decision to make. And I would say, you know what? I'm not going to be the only one playing. If nobody else is going to play, my choice, even though it should stand on its own, is not going to do this team any good. For me, let's say I'm the best wide receiver on the team. It's not going to do this team much good. But if I can get buy-in from everybody else, I will play if everybody else plays.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, Ohio State was kind of in the same boat, right? Their starting quarterback for the whole season is at Syracuse.
Yeah.
Their best wide receiver is not wanting to risk his draft status, is on the sideline. And I think one of your linebackers was out, or what? There was another one.
Tommy Eichenberg was injured. They had two starting defensive players who were injured.
And then you had Missouri, who was playing this game like it mattered, right? And then you had the result.
Yeah, Missouri doesn't go to these games every year. Ohio State's the only school in the country that has played in a New Year's Six game every year, so it's really not that special to them. And I don't want to question these players' incentive, and I don't want to minimize the effort that they made or the decision they made to play, but they also could have been making individual decisions because they knew that their draft status wasn't excellent, that they needed better tape, more tape, and another audition for NFL scouts, so that it wasn't a strictly selfless decision on their part, but they were still making a career move by playing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Missouri players, in many ways, that could be their thought as well, as opposed to Ohio State. Ohio State has more of those players that are going to be in the league. The Missouri seniors, hey, let me get some more tape out. Let me show them how I play against a big name like Ohio State. So there's those different motivations. And then if Ohio State had made the playoff, your quarterback would have been your quarterback and not at Syracuse for at least a couple more weeks, I would imagine.
Yeah, isn't that funny that the difference between Kyle McCord spending his Christmas week at Syracuse and going to a 45-0 game against South Florida versus playing and preparing for a playoff is 35 yards. So 35 yards more, and Kyle McCord's leading a playoff team that's 13-0, that I guess would have been the number one team in the country in a playoff game. And even if Ryan Day still had the same evaluation, let's say Kyle McCord throws a crappy pass or just throws a little outlet throw to Travion Henderson, and he races 35 yards and breaks 3 tackles and scores the game-winning touchdown. Kyle McCord, in regards to what he has shown us as a quarterback, is no different. It is no different. And then the next week he shows up against Iowa. He's really not that needed, and he goes 12 for 20 and throws for 150 yards and basically does what JJ McCarthy did, which was next to nothing. And Ohio State beats Iowa 26-0, like Michigan did. Kyle McCord is a playoff quarterback, yes, and he's still the Ohio State quarterback right now, even though he is no better than he is.
Yeah. And imagine if he would have won the national title with Ohio State.
Yeah.
It'd be tough to transfer then, right? Tougher, I guess.
Well, it would be tough for them to say, and we don't know exactly what was said. We don't know if Ryan Day pushed him out the door or if he was just honest in saying, hey, you're going to have to win this job. You are not the incumbent. You are the starter for this season, but we are having another competition for next season, and you're going to have to win it again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the latter sounds...
Yeah, and the reason that
more
sounds realistic to me is because Kyle McCord did not turn around and transfer to a fairly similar school, or even he didn't even downgrade to Kansas State or Wisconsin or Nebraska. He downgraded a lot. So I got to think this is a place where he knows he's going to be the starter.
Yeah. I believe he had some kind of relationship with one of the coaches. Already was familiar with them. Yeah. So absolutely. That from the outside looking in, I that sounds about right. And then lastly, to again put you on the spot, these bowls, are we going to see an end to them? Because they're seeming less and less meaningful to meaningful teams that are not in the playoffs, and now with the 12-team playoff, the only ones that seem to want to play them are like your Toledos and your Miami of Ohio's, again, because it gives you film to show to NFL scouts.
Well, I don't know if all those players are playing for those reasons. There are a ton of those guys that have no shot of playing in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not causing them to opt out. They're playing.
Do you see an end to bowls because of the 12-team playoff?
No.
No. As
long as they make money. If they make money, they'll continue. If they don't make money, they won't continue. It's pretty much down to that. And I believe that they make significant amounts of money, so they will continue to be played. And let's say if Georgia and Florida State would have showed up at this game fully stocked, Jordan Travis is healthy, they play this game, and let's say 12 million people watch this game, or would have watched this game instead of 10 million people. So these bowl games are going to be watched less, but they're still going to be money makers. So I would expect that they will still be played. And plus, let's consider that how many bowl games are going to be in the playoff, whatever number that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, for example, another one tonight for what we're dealing with this year, or yesterday actually, was the Notre Dame Oregon State game. That's a really, really good game. If the head coach was still there for Oregon State and the quarterback and whatever
other guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this whole trying to gauge conferences as well. For instance,
Yes.
today, Ole Miss versus Penn State. Penn State's defensive coordinators at Duke, right?
Yes.
Completely changes.
And their 4 best defensive players didn't
Yeah.
play. Well, except maybe Abdul Carter would be in that mix, but 4 of their best defensive players didn't play.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a totally different game. And then not only that, it being so far away from the regular season, the season momentum is completely changed, because you have this huge break.
Yeah.
Teams
Well,
that
that's
were
always
on
been the case.
momentum. Yeah.
Actually, the season used to be further away from the bowl games than it is now.
I still think it's too far away because some of these teams have been played in, if they're not playing conference championships, a week's break is fine. And then, realistically, what they should do, which they never will do, is the last game of the season is basically your bowl game, right? Unless you're in the playoffs. So the bowls are the week right after the regular season ends. And then we play all the bowls that week.
Okay. You're missing one huge component to bowl play.
What's that?
Why would they not do that?
Well, you wouldn't be able to fit all the games on, right?
Well, not even that, but that's true. Yes, you're not going to play 41 games in one weekend, or it's just going to be another college football weekend where you can't watch all the games. But
well, I mean, all this.
There's a reason it's played when they're played.
You're thinking of the portal.
No.
No?
Has nothing to do with the portal. It has to do with what's been going on for 2,000 years, basically, but certainly pertaining to college football ever since there have been bowl games.
What's that? What am I missing?
The holidays.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What college football games are going to be played? I guess now that we got a playoff, you could play all the non-playoff games, bowl games, at the time that you want to, and then you play the bowl games or the playoff games. However, if you look at a calendar and map out when these playoff games are going to be played, there's only going to be one off week. So you're going to have, let's say, conference championship games played roughly the 5th of December. And then on the 12th of December, that Saturday, you're going to have the Army-Navy game, and everybody else is going to be off. And then on the 19th, you're going to have first round college football playoff games that weekend.
So could you put them all that first week? Would it make any sense? That first week of playoffs?
Bowl games or playoff games?
Both.
I don't know what
round
they're
one
going to do with the
playoff?
bowl games next year, because think about this. On the weekend of, and I've seen this drawn up, but I don't have it in front of me of how this is going to be mapped out. And part of it I don't like because there's a big gap in there somewhere. So as I just laid it out, let's say that Saturday is the 19th. There are going to be how many playoff games? Let's see, 5 plays 12, 6 plays 11, 7 and 10. There are 4 playoff games, 8 and 9. That's 4 playoff games. And they're going to play 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday. It's going to be a doubleheader on Friday, doubleheader on Saturday. That is going to be what is now the weekend that you have your first bowl games on Saturday. So I don't know if we're going to have more bowl games on Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday probably. And then there'll probably be maybe 2 early in the afternoon on Saturday, Friday and Saturday before the playoff games. And your playoff games are going to be at 4 and 8. That's what you'll have. They'll just space out these bowl games, the non-playoff games.
And I mean, in many ways, it wouldn't matter. Even if we could align them perfectly, a coach that is going to be, for instance, Smith at Oregon State, whose mind's already at Michigan State, is already thinking of recruiting and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Is not going to care about prepping his team as best
No.
he can to beat Notre Dame.
No.
You know?
No. No, when is the last time that's happened? I know that it's happened, but it's been a long time since a coach stuck around that got fired or left. It's happened. I remember
It's happened. I
happening
do remember. I
a
forget
little
who
bit
it
here
was.
and there when we were younger, where these coaches stuck around and coached their team, and it was their last game with their team. But now it's on to the next deal, and there's so much more important things to deal with that they move on. But when you think about it, there's only one weekend of no college football.
Yeah, the weekend right after the Army-Navy game, right?
No, the Army-Navy game. That's the only one.
Well, that is a college football game.
Okay,
So,
well then if you count that, then there are no weekends without college football.
well, yeah, true. Yeah, there's just no way. I mean, what I think in many ways we should eliminate. That's why I'm not in favor of bowls. They make no sense. No one wants to play. But well, let me put this in a sense. A lot of folks don't care to play them. Coaches and player alike, whether the player wants to opt out for draft status or the coach is fired or going somewhere else. There really is no point in bowl games anymore,
Wow.
especially with a Team 12 playoff. If you can't make it in the 12-team playoff, the seasons should be over. That's just my take. I'm sure that's an unpopular opinion.
Man, that's about the most depressing thing I've heard today.
Well, hey, do you really want to watch Notre Dame or did you want to see Oregon State and Notre Dame today? I didn't watch it because I knew it was going to happen.
No, I didn't watch it.
Florida State, Georgia. I knew it was going to happen.
I didn't watch it. I started to watch it. I started to watch every game. But to your point, especially being the nerd that I am, I want to know how good these teams are. And I want to be able to evaluate the teams, put the numbers together, put the records together, evaluate the conferences. What games can we really evaluate outside of the playoff?
Yeah.
I certainly think Ohio State lost that game to Missouri, and they should take a hit for that. But that might be one of the more legitimate games, but it still wasn't completely legitimate. There's a third string quarterback playing who's only thrown 5 passes in his life.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. That was that even that loss. I know Missouri won the game and they earned the win, but I do believe Ohio State most likely would have beat them had they had those missing players. I would have been surprised. It would have been a surprise win of if Missouri beat Ohio State with everyone. Then Ryan Day would have really been in trouble as far as even more heat than he's already getting.
Well, he's got his job for next season, regardless of what happened in that game. So,
yeah, but I mean, even more so. I mean, yesterday, despite the fact that they lost, I don't know if there was any more heat than he's already has, which I think he's a fantastic coach. And anyway. But yeah, that game's a perfect example of why you can't really gauge. You can't gauge a team playing another team. That's why Florida State isn't in the playoff, right? Imagine them; they have a third string quarterback. Ohio State showed us with all the Ohio State is a seasoned team with playoff experience with all these great players. They didn't look as good as they have without their quarterback, right? Quarterback being the most important position of probably in any sport. So
yeah, Ohio State was playing its third string quarterback, just like Florida State was playing its third string quarterback tonight, and they lost by 60 points. So
yeah, well, they had a lot more opt-outs, right?
Anybody who thinks Ohio State wasn't hurt by playing a third string quarterback, look at what happened to Florida State. And yes, Florida State had many more opt-outs, absolutely, but they also had a quarterback who had played 2 games. against good opponents, that third string quarterback played the ACC championship game.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mark. Well, man, I've been kind of thoroughly disappointed by the Bulls so far. So I'm really hoping Monday, we finally get a chance to see some real college football, so to speak.
Well, yeah, if those players aren't invested, then we're in real trouble.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. But yeah, it's going to be fun. Michigan, Alabama, Texas, Washington. I can't wait. I was really looking forward to seeing some others, but man, not so much anymore. All right. Hey, thanks for taking my call. Take care.
All right. We better move here because we've got about 10 minutes or so, and we're going to come back with an 8:30 Washington, Texas preview. We're going to do that. And also, we've got a super chat coming in from a few here. We've got Erica. Mark, if it smells like a keyboard warrior, looks like a keyboard warrior, it probably is. People will say anything in Twitter, yet refuse to call in. Sadly enough, Erica, I want so badly for these people to call. I want so badly for them to call. I just do. Because you know what the result would be? About half the time, they would look foolish. And about half the time, I think we would come to some realization. Like I did have a exchange with somebody on Twitter today in which they looked a bit foolish at the beginning. Then I kind of pulled myself back, showed them a little grace, a little mercy, allowed them to kind of talk themselves through it because they were actually applying a lot of things to Ohio State that should have been applied to Penn State. I think they were getting mixed up. And so then after 4 or 5 exchanges, it was like, hey, great. Appreciate you being here. Everything's good. Have a great day. So people can work things out usually. All right. Casey Anthony got away with it. Thank you so much for the contribution. Sweet Georgia covered the 59. They did. They covered the 59 and they covered the 21. All right. Well, we better go through rapid fire here. Mike, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on with you?
This won't be long because I'm running out of booze and the kitchen's way over there. So,
okay.
And I'm not nearly drunk enough. So, how much of that mugging did you see down there in the Orange Bowl?
I can't say that I really paid much attention to it, even when it was on. Definitely at 28-3. I then switched my laptop and my TV, and I went to the infamous Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl and took in that fine broadcast.
I was trying to split between a couple games. I picked Maryland to beat Auburn, but I thought that was going to be a little bit of a closer game than that.
Sure. Auburn was the favorite.
Yeah, and even if Talia played, I still think they probably would have been a favorite. But I had heard good things about that Edwards kid.
Yeah, he's played.
Yeah, and he's, to my knowledge, he hasn't started, but I have seen him play like garbage time and stuff.
Well, he played against your team last year.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think he only had less than 30 passes this year. I think he actually played more last year than this year, didn't he?
That sounds right.
And I thought that, it's kind of a weird thing because he's kind of like the stability line where, Talia, he, in my opinion, he has like the higher ceiling, but he also has the lower floor because I've seen Talia lose Maryland a couple games.
Yeah, he likes to sling it around.
Yeah, and he's not very careful with the ball. In fact, I think that Talia was probably 2 or 3 mistakes from probably beating us.
Yes.
And then now, I actually had the game on one of my monitors, but I wasn't looking at too close. With the Toledo, Wyoming, Now, did that Finn guy play that game?
No.
Oh man, I probably should have researched that before I picked Toledo in the Bowl Mania.
Well, I picked them, and they were up by 9 points.
Yeah, they had a 2-score game. They had a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, but they just kind of fell apart.
Oh, did they lose?
Yeah, they lost on a last-second field goal.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Did they cover at least? Okay, well, at least they covered. That got me a point spread win. Okay, they covered. All right, I'm good. I had 3.5.
Oh, so you said Wyoming was favored by 3.5?
I think 3.5, 4.5, something like that.
Now, if memory serves, we're done with college football for today, right?
We are. The NFL takes over.
Yeah, right now it's the line. I know there's Lions and Cowboys. Any other games?
Not that I know of.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Okay.
All right, Mike, I better move.
Oh, no problem. I'll go ahead and get.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, let's get these calls in. We got McD. Congratulations, McD. That's 3 years in a row.
Mark, did you see? First of all, can you hear me good?
Yes.
Okay, I'm on a new mic. That's why I asked that. Did you see Mike Locksley and the Maryland Terps get the job done today? Absolutely taking Auburn to the woodshed.
Well, I can't say that I did, but I did not watch the game, but so yes, I see the score. I kept up with the score, and by the time I had time to check in on it, it was already a blowout.
Maryland's first three offensive drives, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. I was watching it. I was like, let's go. I mean, I was very impressed, and I knew Maryland was going to win this bowl game. I didn't think Maryland should. I honestly thought Maryland should have been the favorite going into this. I know why Vegas had the line as it is, but I mean, Maryland's going to be confined with Billy Edwards next year.
He went 6 for 20 for 126 yards.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be
they won the game. I'm not making fun of them, but I expected to see more offensive numbers out of this team. They only ran for 102 yards.
It's going to be a lot of it's going to be a different offensive scheme. It's not going to be a lot of slinging it around next year if Billy Evers is the quarterback. And it's going to be a quarterback competition. They have the other guy that played that hit that big bomb to Payther there in the first quarter. They have the NC State transfer, but it's good. It's not going to be a lot of slinging it around next year.
They've got MJ Morris from NC State.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it's good. It's going to be a lot more, I think, handing off the ball, kind of playing power football next year offensively. But I'm fired up. I mean, this was a bit of a weird season for Maryland. I feel some Maryland fans do think it's a bit underwhelming this season. I'll take 8-5. I mean, I'm very happy with what I'm seeing with the Maryland Terps. Now, granted, Mike Locksley needs to recruit a little bit better, but that's okay. You need to give Mike Locksley his due, Mark. 3 bowl wins, 3-0 in bowl games. Absolutely getting the job done at Maryland.
Yes, Mike Locksley and PJ Fleck are the bowl kings of the Big Ten.
Well, PJ Fleck should have not been in a bowl game this year, but you're right. He's
won 6 straight.
That is true.
And Locksley's won 3 straight. So as long as you're lining up NC State, Virginia, Auburn, Bowling Green, Georgia Tech in front of these teams, West Virginia, then they're going to continue to win bowl games, I guess.
Yeah, hey, and winning a bowl game, I mean, the Music City Bowl, that's one of the bigger bowl games of the college football bowl season. I would say the Music City Bowl is at least like in the middle.
Okay.
I mean, it's been around for a while. I think that's what
It's been around about 20 some years.
25th Music City Bowl.
This was the 25th. Okay.
I also just want to give a shout out to Mizzou and Ole Miss for getting the job done. Absolutely embarrassing Big Ten teams, especially Mizzou.
Okay.
But That's all I wanted to say, Mark. I know you probably have a bunch of callers you need to get out of here, but I just wanna
Imagine
take
what Mizzou would do to Maryland.
Hey, I'm here for it.
All right. Well, we will start to dissect the 2024 Terps and see what's in store there.
Because the football season's over because I'm not watching that playoffs. Thanks for taking the call, Mark. Go Terps. Music City Bowl champs.
Thanks, McD. Yes, congratulations to the Terps. I was just curious who was on their 2024 schedule, if they've scheduled a difficult non-conference game for 2024. Their schedule's not there. Anyway, we've got plenty of time to look at Maryland's 2024 schedule. Last call of the night, but we are still going to be on, everyone. Keep it right here. We're striking up a new stream. Washington, Texas playoff preview live, 8:30 Eastern right here, 5 minutes away. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Fine. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well.
I didn't catch the Orange Bowl. I guess that turned out to be another romp, I guess, over. Did they win by 60? Is that what it was? 63-3 or something?
I think that was the final score, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't bode too well, I guess, for my insistence, I guess, that they include an undefeated team in the championship. But
Well,
I don't
not
know
necessarily, Chris, because that is not the Florida State team that would have shown up for the playoffs.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just saying, Mark, I'll be the first to admit when I guess I'm wrong about something. But
Well, no, the point I'm making is that they had something like 11 players opt out of that game.
oh, yeah. Well, I guess I don't know, Mark. I look at things. I'm not saying you're right most of the time. In fact, I defer to you in cases where there's a doubt because I think you know a lot more than I ever will. But and I'm not saying that to be modest. I think you've demonstrated that you have a high intellect and you're obviously pretty smart about what goes on and knows what's going to happen sometimes before it even happens. So the other thing I was going to ask you though. Have you heard anything about, are there going to be any opt-outs in the Fiesta Bowl? Have you heard anything about that?
I know that Bo Nix is playing. Let me look that up. There are opt-outs for Oregon. There's a few.
When they opt out, is that the same as, are they in the transfer portal, or does that just mean that I'm not quite sure I understand is the opt-out, is that the same as being in the transfer portal? Or is that something else?
So it used to only mean that they have declared for the NFL draft and they don't want to play and risk injury, but it now could mean either one. Because there are transfer portal players that do choose to, and their coach allows them to play in the game.
I understand. I mean, it's like I can maybe even sympathize a little bit with that would be a tough decision if I, pretending I could do it. But I don't know what kind of course of action, if it's not going to make a difference as far as where I got drafted. I'm making it as if I was in the game, which I'm not. But trust me, I wouldn't be in there. But I can understand a little bit about why they would maybe not want to take a chance about being hurt. But is there another maybe positive side of it, though? I mean, you get another game to kind of show what you can do. I don't quite understand exactly why they would. Maybe it's too much to ask for some of these players to play too many games and all that. But I would think that being in another game, that's another opportunity to kind of, put yourself on the. I don't understand the whole principle behind being out of the game, really.
So there's an injury factor, of course, but I think that the players are also determining whether the game has more of an opportunity to help their draft stock or hurt their draft stock. So let's say you're a top 10 projected player in the NFL draft, you have much more to lose than you do to gain. Now, if you're a marginal projected selection, then you have more to gain than to lose by performing well.
Sure. I guess what I'm asking you, Mark, maybe is the technology, has it gotten to the point where, it makes sense to me a little bit. I mean, if they've already I would think at some point, I don't know exactly what they look at with the draft, but my guess would be that they probably factor in, the people that are really good at it, probably look at all the numbers and maybe know already maybe which players are going to be drafted before they're even, I'm not saying they know, but my guess would be that you have a pretty good idea. long
Well, they
before
give each player that requests it a draft grade. They basically go and they interview and get draft grades from NFL general managers and player personnel directors to rate the players and grade the players, so then they can be informed about their draft status.
What do you think about? I'm going to throw you a curveball, I guess. I know they used to have. I don't know. They still offer free agency in the NFL. I was kind of wondering why is it really essential that we have a draft? Why can't they just let some of these players just kind of like with the, if there's a spot available on an NFL team, why do they? I don't understand exactly why it has to be a draft. Why can't they just let these players decide where they want to play? I don't understand why that's such a problem, especially now.
Well, you know that every professional sport has a draft.
Well, I'm just saying, Mark, in terms of, do you have to have a certain amount of cachet or whatever to where, like I'm watching a game as I'm talking to you right now, it's the Lions and the Cowboys.
Sure.
Well, to me, I don't know that there's any, I mean, it used to be if you got drafted by the Cowboys that, I don't know that it's that way anymore. I mean, if you're in the NFL, I mean, I kind of think that maybe the draft isn't really what it used to be as far as, I know you had to be like what was it? The best team generally didn't get the highest picks, but why does it have to be to where you have to kind of determine your own fate? Why can't it be just people deciding where they want to play? I don't know.
The draft is conducted in the same way that it always has been. It's only smaller than it used to be. It used to be,
it's like 7 rounds.
Yeah, it's 7 rounds now. It was 12 rounds. And before the merger, it was 18 rounds. Well, they do that for the common good of the league to spread out the talent and provide. The NFL operates as a company. They don't operate as individual companies. They operate as one company. And basically, those are almost like branches or offices in Atlanta, Dallas, New York, Green Bay. Those are the offices, and they are distributing talent to each office.
Well, no, I mean, for example, I don't know, maybe I look at things a little bit, I might be like way off base too on some of it, but I don't necessarily associate Detroit with one of the better, but I think this year they're pretty good, right? Aren't they pretty good this year? Well, I mean, that's probably a symptom of something where it used to be that it was Dallas every year almost, you know what I mean? And now it's maybe you get a Detroit or you get, somebody that's not necessarily the team that you might think would be the better, I mean, it seems like there's a little bit more, I guess it's called parity. But so I don't know, am I wrong about that? Or is there some programs that are just much more better? In terms of
unfortunately, Chris, we're up against it. We've got an 8:30 show that we're doing. So if you just hold tight right here, we're going to have another stream started up, but I've got to get my guests together and we're going to do a Washington, Texas preview.
No, I understand. That's fine.
So, thanks for being here.
Have a good night.
All right, folks, keep it right here. We've got Washington and Texas. We've got a preview coming up right now. And thank you so much for the super chat contribution here. Saunders says, does it matter to you that Georgia's second and third string beat up on Florida State second half 21-0? It was a more even matchup with Florida State opt-outs, or should I not look at that too much into that? No, I think that's it's a fair fight if you want to look at it that way. It's unfortunately just not the best of both teams playing. It was the majority of the best of Georgia, more so than Florida State at the outset. But that is a reasonable, it's not entirely accurate, but reasonable evaluation to make. If Georgia's second and third stringers were in against Florida State's second and third stringers and they still blasted them, that means that Georgia has more depth, which we already knew. Georgia has more depth than basically any other roster in the country. Sonder, thank you so much for the contribution. Keep it right here. We'll be here in 2 minutes with our Washington, Texas preview.